is Randi Coker. I'm 36 years old and I am living with hydrocephalus. My dad is Clint Coker. He owns Glass Co. in Sumter, which is a glass business. They do commercial auto glass. And my mom is Beth Coker. She is his wife and she works does bookkeeping through Glass Co. My brother is Kyle Coker. He works in Charlotte, North Carolina as a bartender and manager for a restaurant room service. Very happy. Just filled with warmth and love, and I was a very imaginative kid, had a lot of just playtime outside, a lot of climbing trees, and not really limited by hydrocephalus, just a lot of imagination and reading and playing and just having fun, being a normal kid. I was born 3.5 months premature. I was very premature. I was actually stillborn, and my parents at the time, this was in '88, were actually told that the doctors could lay me aside or they could do everything they could to revive me. And my parents, that was like no question. They were gonna revive me and do all they could to give me a normal childhood and a normal life. And I was diagnosed with hydrocephalus after I was born. Being that premature, I had a brain hemorrhage, brain bleed, and it actually the blood clot blocked the ventricles in my brain, which allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow through your brain. In a normal person, your brain has ventricles and the spinal fluid can flow around well. In someone like me, with that blockage, it can't flow, so it just backs up in your head. And as a child, your head expands. They measure the skull, and that's how you know that someone has hydrocephalus. But with me, I was diagnosed when I was a baby, and they put in a shunt at, I think it was 3 months, and it's been there ever since, really. Hydrocephalus is the collection of cerebrospinal fluid in the head. So when there's a blockage or any kind of blockage in the brain, the spinal fluid can't flow in and out like normal up the spinal cord and out of the brain. With a shunt, it actually is a kind of a tap in your head. It's a plastic and somewhat metal piece. It's like a little hinged duct in your head. It's got a tube that goes down in the brain and collects cerebrospinal fluid, takes it out. It can flush it out through a tube in the neck, which can go into your heart. Mine goes into my stomach and allows it to exit the body. Symptoms, well, I don't really remember, but when I was a baby, it's just the collection of spinal fluid. But as an adult, complications I've had, when my shunt failed, my shunt got a blockage, and it's just a horrible backup of spinal fluid where it won't flow out, can cause extreme headaches, just because of the pressure, the intracranial pressure. I was experiencing vision problems from papilledema, pressure in my eyes. I couldn't see. It was up to 2 to 3 times vision I was having. Nausea. I was losing motor control, essentially, of not being able to walk, kind of slurring speech. I was having seizures up to every 15 minutes when it was failing. So it's essentially losing your brain, losing all of the control that you would normally have. My parents were, when I was born, 26 and 27, and very young, very scared, not really knowing what to expect because this was the 80s and there was literature on it, was what they were given, but they didn't really have kind of the resources that we would have now, internet and whatnot. Doctors were, I guess, kind of learning as well as parents could, but they just took it in stride. They were gonna take whatever came and raise me as best they could. I didn't really know about it when I was little. I understood that there was something wrong with my head. I knew I had a shunt, but I didn't understand the real ramifications of it until I got older. But it's mostly just been me living with it. I really haven't let it hold me back, and I know what to look out for now as an adult, but um, yeah, just mostly me living with it, just kind of take it in stride just like they did.
Now, is there a family history of hydrocephalus or someone you knew who had that disease?
No, there's actually not. It can be genetic. There you can be like predisposed to it, or it can be just you get it through birth or whatever. Mine was just from that condition of having been born so premature. But I have friends since I've come into the Hydrocephalus Association. I've met people who have it. A couple local people. Um, Elizabeth Touchberry, who's actually a friend of mine, has it, and yeah, I've got some just a couple friends. Majel, who's over in Columbia, but um, just a lot of people. Emma,
Now,
yeah.
do they have do they follow the same complications as you, or are they different? Or
Theirs are different, and with hydrocephalus comes different difficulties, just different levels of able-bodiedness, um, just how often your complications arise is dependent on whether or not you need surgery and how many surgeries you need. They've had a lot more surgeries than I've had. I had the one initial surgery to place the shunt. I had a surgery to lengthen the tubing, and I've had the emergency surgery for when my shunt failed. But they've had, Lord, so many surgeries. I think Elizabeth has had upwards of 12. I know. Um, Major, I couldn't tell you. I'm not entirely sure. Emma's had a lot of surgeries as well. But yeah, just different levels of able-bodiedness throughout the hydrocephalus community. I know kids who are wheelchair bound. I know kids who walk with like walking aids. But yeah, it really depends on how your brain is affected, how your motor skills are affected.
now, how many surgeries you have? You had
I've had three,
on three.
just three, yeah.
Okay.
I had the one initial to place the shunt, the second to lengthen the tubing, which when they place it as a baby, the shunt, they guesstimate how tall you're going to be, which is nuts, I know. And then around 6 years old, I think I was 6 when I had my lengthening surgery, they add in more tubing to accommodate for you growing. And then if there are no more complications, then they don't have to really do anything else. But other than an emergency surgery back in 2014, that's the only one I've really needed since. Um, usually every year to 2 years, I've got a really fantastic team of doctors who, since my shunt failure, have been really on top of it. Dr. James Durant, I'll give some shout outs. Dr. James Durant was my pediatrician when I was a baby and when I was younger. He has followed me through my entire life with my shunt until I went to a regular adult doctor. But then after my shunt failure, I transferred over to Dr. McClung Smith over in Columbia. Dr. Scarley was my shunt, the neurosurgeon when I had my shunt failure, and Dr. Holbrook was my doctor when I was a baby. But yeah, every 1 to 2 years, generally with Dr. McClung Smith. Dr. John Baker is my Dr. John Baker is my neurologist here in Sumter. He is the one that actually helped me through my shunt failure. He's the one that I was seeing periodically after my shunt failure, and he's been the one that's really on top of it. But Dr. McClung Smith is the one in Columbia that I see every 1 to 2 years. My family and friends, just being surrounded by really good people. I've got a Bible study that I do with some friends out of Charleston. We get together on the phone every month or so. We're trying to do it a lot more often, but just surrounding myself with things I enjoy and people I enjoy being around. I wake up, I go to work, stay at work 8 hours, and hang out with my coworkers. And then I come home, just hang out with my family, have some good family time, get some reading in. Yeah, no shunt complications so far. That's excuse me. That's the Walk for Hydrocephalus, and it raises money and awareness for hydrocephalus. Usually it's over in Columbia every September. September is actually Hydrocephalus Awareness Month, and that is just to, like I said, raise awareness, raise funds for hydrocephalus. It's usually a walk. Last year we did a walk around the hospital grounds and over at Richland Memorial. So yeah. Okay, this is my sign that we display at the Hydrocephalus Walk. It just basically details everything I've been through. When I was born, what I weighed, 1 pound 11 ounces. Just what doctors had assumed for my life before it was kind of really known how I would be. This is just details my shunt failure, everything that was happening, all my seizures. I lost 11 pounds in a month. It was ridiculous. I went from working a full-time job to just being an invalid, unable to walk, talk, and feed myself by myself. I was really relying on my parents at that point in my life. Thank God they were there. And then yeah, that was the shunt revision when I was in the hospital. They shaved my head in preparation for surgery, but fortunately they didn't have to go into my head to be able to fix the shunt, just in my stomach. And my parents, after my shunt failure, when I'd just come out of surgery. And then this is what keeps me sane. My family, my friends, and this is a healthy me. This is my shunt scar. That's where they placed the shunt, and this is just what is left, what's grown on my head. This is where the shunt reservoir is, and it goes down the back of my head, down my neck. But this is just the little moon-shaped scar that's left after it healed. Just stay positive, because you never really know where it's going to take you. Doctors, when I was born, had thought that I would never walk, talk, sit, stand up on my own, feed myself. So really it's just not putting limitations on yourself, or if your child has hydrocephalus, to not limit them. And my parents never did. My parents never really told me I couldn't do something. So yeah, just not underestimate yourself, because yeah, there's a lot of life to be lived.